Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Amadeo Solari. I'm the Press Liaison Officer at the Mission of Peru, and thank you very much for coming here. In my right, Ambassador Gustavo Meza-Cuadra, Permanent Representative of Peru, will brief you, and at his right also we have our political coordinator, Minister Paul Duclos. So just to please, if you can tell your name and the media outlet just at the beginning of your question. He will do a brief presentation, and then we have time for a Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amadeo. Good afternoon, and very pleased to be here with you to discuss our program for April. As you know, Peru is chairing the presidency. It's the fifth time Peru is at the Security Council. And I would like to start this presentation by reaffirming Peruvian commitment to multilateralism, international law, and the Pacific settlement of disputes. As you know, Peru has had not only a Secretary General, but also a President of General Assembly, a President of International Court of Justice. So Peru has a long tradition of multilateralism and support to the UN. We are also a troop contributing country. We are participating now in 5 missions. We have an engineering company now in CAR, in Central African Republic. And regarding our recent history, I would like to highlight 3 elements that may explain a little bit why for our priorities for this month. No? Particularly, as you know, Peru we defeated terrorism some decades ago. We also pacified the country thanks to a wide national consensus for addressing the root causes of conflict. That's the reason we support very much this idea of sustaining peace. And also we settled peacefully sensitive boundaries, controversies with our neighbors. The reason we also support very much Chapter 6, and we support the peaceful settlement of disputes. The reason of our sustaining peace is that not only our experience, but we support very much these twin resolutions adopted here at the General Assembly and the Security Council. So we will have a debate, a briefing on April 25th, coinciding with the high-level debate of the PGA that is going to take place on 24 and 25. It's an occasion to discuss the recent report of the Secretary General on sustaining peace, peace building and sustaining peace. We would expect the discussion to be focused on implementing these twin resolutions I mentioned, this through greater coordination and partnership with the PBC, regional and sub-regional organizations, civil society, international financial institutions, and also to stress the importance of preventive diplomacy. It is important to bear in mind that evidence, including the Peruvian experience, shows that engaging women and youth is vital in national processes of prevention, conflict resolution, peace building and sustaining peace, as well as fighting against violent extremism leading to terrorism. So Peru attaches priority to these cross-cutting issues. As you know, Peru is also chairing the CTC, the Counterterrorism Committee, and co-chairs the expert group on women, peace, and security. So on April 16, we will convene the annual open debate on the prevention of sexual violence during armed conflict. The sub-theme we have proposed focus on gender equality, empowering of women, and access to justice. We hope to have as main briefer DSG Amina Mohammed via webcast. And we will have also as element for the discussion the report of the Secretary General. On April 23rd, we are having our second open debate on youth, peace, and security. There is also a report And this is following the previous resolution on youth, peace, and security, the 2250, 2 years ago. And the main speaker will be the leading author of the report, Mr. Graham Simpson, and we will have also civil society presenters. We hope that the discussion will lead us to adopt a resolution on youth, peace, and security, and we'll be working for this with the Swedish delegation. In our national capacity, we are convening an area formula on the regional dimension of the fight against terrorism and its links with transnational organized crime. We seek to promote cooperation and coordination among different regional and sub-regional organizations that are faced with confronting such scourges. We look forward to work on a presidential statement on these matters. This area forma will take place on April 9. April 9. The third open debate will take place on April 27. Is the quarterly meeting on the situation in the Middle East, including the question of Palestine. During our...
26, yeah.
It's 27, April 26. 26? Yeah, 26. The Council will also hold briefings on the 2 countries of our region that are subject to regular monitoring by the Council, Colombia on April 19, and Haiti on April 3rd. So now I will pass briefly, I will mention the most important events and briefings and meetings we will have during our presidency, and I will switch to Spanish to do it more quickly. You
have the program of work that was adopted for this month. And on the first week, we have, on the 3rd of April, we have a briefing on Haiti, Ministries. And the brief for that will be Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix. On the 4th of April, we have the adoption, starting with the renewal of the Ministries mandate. We'll start with that, and then we'll have a briefing on Syria, chemical weapons. On Thursday, the 5th of April, we'll have a meeting with the troop contributing countries for MINURSO. That's the first week, and then that's the end of that week. Then we have Monday, the 9th of April, we'll have an area formula meeting, which will focus on the regional dimension of combating terrorism and its links with transnational organized crime. The briefers will be the Executive Director of the UNODC and Deputy Assistant Secretary General of the Office for Combating Terrorism, UNOCT, and members and representatives from different organizations, regional organizations, the African Union, the African League, the European Union, OIC, and others, and the OCSC in Europe. So that will be an interactive debate. And then on the 10th, Tuesday the 10th, we'll have a briefing on the Great Lakes region. The briefer will be Mr. Said Jinit. Wednesday the 11th, we have a briefing and consultations on MINUSMA, Mali, and the Sanctions Committee headed by the Ambassador of Sweden on Mali sanctions. And we'll have the head of MINUSMA, Mr. Galif, and Ambassador Olof Skufte from Sweden. On the Thursday, the 12th, we'll have a meeting of the 1540 Committee on Non-Proliferation. The briefer will be Ambassador Sacha Laurenti, Ambassador of Bolivia, who is the chair of this committee. He'll be briefing the Security Council. That's the end of that week. Then we start the next week, Monday the 16th, with an open debate on preventing sexual violence in conflict through empowerment of women, gender equality, and access to justice. As I said earlier, we hope to have Madam Amina Mohammed via video conference, Amelia Patton, and representatives of civil society will also be in attendance. On Tuesday, the 17th, we'll have briefing and consultations on Yemen. There's a new special envoy, Mr. Martin Griefing, who will be providing us with his first report to the council, and at that time we'll also be here for Mr. Mark Local from OCHA on the same topic. In the afternoon of the 17th of April, we'll have consultations on MINURSO. And the briefing will be the SRG as Colin Stewart. Wednesday, the 18th, we have an informal interactive dialogue where we'll be hearing from Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix and the Commissioner for the African Union Peace and Security Commission, Mr. Ismail Chergi, after their trip together to the Central African Republic, Darfur, and Addis Ababa. On that afternoon, we'll have a briefing on South Sudan, Unmiss, and Consultations. Briefing us will be Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix and the Special Envoy of IGAT, and a representative of civil society will also be in attendance. On Thursday, the 19th, we will have a briefing and consultations on Colombia. At that time, we hope to have the presence of the Foreign Minister of Colombia, and we hope to be represented at that level as well. The Thursday 19th, there will also be a briefing on Unmiss, Liberia. As you know, this is the last meeting, and the briefers will be Mr. Lacroix and Ambassador Olaf Skuf in his capacity as chair of the peace-building configuration for Liberia. We also have a briefer from civil society, and all of that is on Thursday, the 19th of April. Now, from the night of the 19th through the 22nd, Sunday the 22nd, we have the Security Council annual retreat with the Secretary General. This time it will take place in Sweden. It's a trip that we are coordinating with the Swedish delegation. Peru and Sweden are working on it together. The main focus of the discussion will be peacekeeping operations and partnerships. We'll return for the 23rd of April, Monday. We'll have an open debate. We mentioned that, I think, before, on youth, peace, and security. The main briefer will be Mr. Bram Simpson and two young people from civil society. On Tuesday, the 24th, we'll have consultations on ABA, UNIFSA, and we'll have Mr. Lacroix briefing us, as well as Mr. Nicolas Hyson, the special envoy. Wednesday, the 25th, we have adoption of MINURSO. And there's also consultation and a briefing on Syria, covering both the humanitarian and political aspects of this issue. We also have Mr. De Mistura via video conference, and ASG Ursula Menu from the OCHA will also be briefing us. In the afternoon, we have a high-level briefing. We're inviting ministerial-level representatives to brief the council and look at the issue of sustaining peace. This is also a topic being discussed this day before in the General Assembly, a meeting convened by the President of the General Assembly. So the idea is to complement implementation of these identical resolutions that were approved 2 years ago by the GA and the Security Council. We have one more debate then, which is on Thursday the 26th. It's an open debate on the Middle East. It's on the Middle East and the Palestinian question, and the briefer is Mr. Nicolas Madilov. On Thursday the 26th in the afternoon, we will have our closing session where we'll be reporting to the membership of what has happened during the Peruvian presidency. I'd like to indicate that we are considering two different trips during our presidency, one to Iraq and the other to Myanmar and Bangladesh. we are still working on coordination of these visits, and then later I might be able to give you more details. But at this point, I can just say that there's a willingness to visit those two places, and we're now defining the terms of reference and the itinerary for those trips. We will conclude with a cultural activity. It's a sample of art and design from a Peruvian artist, Eduardo Palomino. 2 years ago, he won a prize, the UN contest for Best Poster for Peace. He was the #1 with over 1,000 participants. And this presentation will be in the afternoon, 27th. Not only will he be there to present his art, but you can also taste Peruvian cuisine at that event. So those are our introductory remarks, and just like to say that we will continue supporting the working methodology used by our predecessors, especially the Netherlands presidency, seeking to promote transparency. And every meeting, if there's not a resolution or a PRSD coming out of it, we'll have some other elements of the press or something, some sort of outcome. Now I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Ambassador. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. On behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, thank you very much for this briefing and good luck with your presidency. I wanted to follow up on the trips that you mentioned. Myanmar, Bangladesh has been in the works since February, as we know. Can you confirm, obviously Myanmar has agreed to this trip, and can we assume that the Council would visit Rakhine State? And what do you think could be achieved by this trip?
Como le digo,
Well, as I said, we are currently preparing the terms of reference. I can't give you any details yet, but we do have the readiness of the government of Myanmar to agree to the visit, to accept the visit. Obviously, we're interested in the Rakhine State, and we believe that the Council will benefit a great deal, and also in really maintaining interest in this topic. There's nothing better than visiting, making a visit on the ground to see how the situation is really, and so we are working with the leaders of this visit who, on the visit to Myanmar and Bangladesh, will be Peru as president of the Council, Kuwait, and United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thanks. Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. Gracias por esa conferencia de prensa.
Thank you for this press conference.
The Free UN Coalition for Access. I think that you said that you'll have elements to the press, but the best thing would be to have some question and answer at the stakeout after closed consultations. You know, so even if just answering as much as you can. But I wanted to ask you about Western Sahara. It was reported that the Moroccan ambassador wrote, I believe it's maybe the first letter you got as president, about the situation, and saying that there's some kind of violations of territorial disputes by the Frente Polisario. So I wanted to know, we just heard from the spokesman that the UN has not observed anything. How does a letter such as that get processed by the Council and lead up to the consultations on the 17th and the renewal of the mandate? And my other question has to do with, you'd mentioned Haiti, since it's one of the few situations in this continent that's on the agenda. There seems to be have been a breakdown between the UN and the government of Haiti about raising money for cholera. There was supposed to be a retreat out on Long Island. The government declined to participate. Where do things stand? Do you believe that the UN, do you, in your national capacity, believe that the UN should do more to try to make up for the cholera that was brought to the country? And what can you do in your month on the Haiti issue? Thanks a lot.
muchas gracias.
Thank you. With regard to the first question, indeed, we did receive the letter. And what's happened is that it's been distributed to all the members. There has not been any action taken yet. It was just an informative letter, so it's just been distributed to the members. As to the issue of Haiti, I can say that Peru has been very involved in the issue of Haiti. We've had some 4,000 men over the last 10 years of the MINUSTA mission involved and on the ground, and we're now involved with Ministries on the whole issue of cholera. Indeed, There is a problem with regard to resources. We hope to get more. But what's important here is the efforts that have been undertaken and the leadership of the Secretary General himself in order to call upon the international community to contribute greater funds to combating cholera. It's a disease that we know well in Peru. It's very difficult economically and impacted hundreds of thousands of people in Peru at one time. And we hope that in the case of Haiti, we can find a definitive solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. A couple of follow-up questions and then a question. On this TRIPS, is there a possibility that you would go to Iraq and then to Myanmar in one trip, or are you envisioning two completely different trips for the council? And have you a green light from the Iraqi government for this trip? And what would be the main purpose, since you got asked that about Myanmar? And as another follow-up, I see that the Syrian political situation isn't being discussed until the end of the month, yet there's a lot of activity taking place now, including in eastern Ghouta, where 130,000 people have been displaced. Do you see any prospect of that issue being discussed earlier? And do you envision any follow-up to the council meeting on the Middle East, the emergency meeting that was held on the Israeli-Palestinian, well, the conflict in Gaza?
Muchas gracias. Nuevamente con...
Thank you. Well, once again, regarding the trips, we have the approval of the respective governments. There are two visits separate. One visit is to Iraq and the other is to Myanmar, Bangladesh. The details of how this will take place and to which of the countries will visit, these are under discussion. And obviously, our visit will include, we will try to also visit Rakhine State. As soon as we have an itinerary, we will make it available, and we will certainly, once we're on the ground, we will convey the relevant messages. There are different positions on this topic, but we hope that all this will be reflected in the terms of reference of the visit, which are still being drawn up. And that is as far as the visits. And obviously the visit of Iraq has the full backing of the government. As you know, there will be elections in May in Iraq. And what's important that has happened in this country is that there's been significant progress in the fight against terrorism, against Daesh also. The country needs support from the international community for rebuilding the country and for ensuring reconciliation. And these are the kinds of messages that we'll consider transmitting. On Syria, yes. Originally, we wanted to have a briefing on Syria at the beginning, but now it's planned for the end. Due to the schedules of our briefers, that was not possible. But we're open to the possibility of dealing with this topic under AOB or in some other format. In any case, this is a topic that's on the agenda, and the situation is quite delicate. So we'll try to have a additional discussion on the situation in Syria, especially humanitarian situation, before the date planned on the program.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. President, thank you, sir.
Sí, como digo.
Yes, as I say, we don't have anything set as of yet, but we're not discarding the possibility of a request to look at it under any other business. That would be an option.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Masood Haider. I represent Daily Dawn newspaper of Pakistan. I'd like to ask you a question about what is happening in occupied Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, in which today 20 civilians were killed, including 3 children. And it's now becoming a situation which is really bad over there. Is there Security Council at any point in time going to discuss this particular issue, which is also a grave threat to international peace and security, being that India and Pakistan are nuclear-armed countries? Thank you, sir.
Sí, este es un
Yes, this is an important topic, but at this time, there's no consensus in order to address it. So for the time being, we don't have anything planned on the program. We haven't scheduled a discussion on that topic for the time being. Thank you.
Gracias, embajador. Celia
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm from Voice of America for Latin America. I had a question for you in your national capacity. There's the Summit of the Americas in Peru next week, which will bring together many actors of the region, in particular President Donald Trump. And the topic of Venezuela will be essential during this Summit of the Americas. Obviously, migration will be also a key topic. How do you think this summit will affect also the discussions here at the United Nations? Obviously, this is in your national capacity. Thank you. Yes, Peru will host the Summit of the Americas on the 14th. We hope to see several heads of state. The key topic will be democratic governance and combating corruption. That's the central topic. It's not has to do with a specific country. Obviously, the reference you make to Venezuela, it's a delicate topic for the region. I don't want to say anything for now, because as you know, in Peru we're in the process of appointing new authorities, and when the time comes, they will make a statement on that. Just to follow up, how does Peru sees the number of Venezuelans that have come? I think it's the third country in terms of the number of Venezuelans who have come. But I know you've taken additional steps to host them. And I know that Peru, in addition to opening its borders, has also been working with communities to somehow improve their situation. It's not really an open borders policy, but how are you dealing with this topic given the recent statements by the Security Council and the High Commissioner for Refugees and others? Yes, it's true. The whole region right now is demonstrating its generosity toward the Venezuelan people. The neighboring countries, Colombia and Peru, obviously, we have received a significant number of Venezuelans, and as far as possible, we are offering support in terms of trying to legalize their situation. Many of them are already they reside in Peru. They're working in Peru. I mean, Peru is also a country of immigrants, and so for us, it's quite natural to receive and help those who require assistance. It's an issue that of great concern to us, obviously, for the huge flow migrants in the whole region. Obviously, it highlights the very serious, tragic situation that Venezuela is going through, and Peru is definitely there to provide assistance.
Sí, muchas gracias, embajador, por estar aquí.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for being here. I'm from the Andina Agency Press. I just wanted to ask, at this time of the presidency of Peru and the Council, how will you be giving priority to Latin American issues such as Colombia or Haiti or so forth? Could you comment on that more, please? Thank you for the question, says the President. Indeed, as you said, on the list of meetings that we have scheduled for this month, we had the good fortune, shall we say, of having the topic of Colombia and Haiti being on the program during our presidency. In the case of Colombia, our backing of the mission is very clear, and we want to move forward with that country. And at this stage, that it finds itself is more complex than the previous stage. It's the stage of putting all the arms down and reinsertion, and yet it's an important and significant moment. There are a number of milestones. So the meeting on the 19th will be very important. And as I said, we hope to have a ministerial level attendance, no doubt the foreign minister of Colombia. In the case of Haiti, our commitment is full. We have been very active participants. We're part of the group of Friends of Haiti. We've actively participated in the mission. Peru has had some of the greatest presence there in recent years, and we're doing everything necessary and possible to make sure that the new resolution that's to be adopted ensures that the progress that's been achieved be accommodated and move towards a new horizon, and make sure that we meet the goals that have been set by the new resolution. So we're very pleased that during our presidency, 2 topics of the region are being discussed. And in both of them, we have special knowledge and a great deal of commitment and engagement. Thank you.
Hello, Ambassador. I'm Carol Landry with AFP, Agence France Presse. I wanted to get back to the Myanmar trip. Has the government agreed to a visit to Rakhine State, or perhaps just to the capital, to Naypyidaw? And also, would the council go to Cox's Bazar? Thank you so much.
Como le decía,
As I was telling you, I'm not ready yet to provide you details on the trips. We've agreed on a number of issues in principle. We've expressed our interest in visiting Rakhine State, and I hope that will be possible. I don't think there should be any difficulties. It's an important aspect to have a comprehensive overview of the situation, but as far as the specific details of how we'll be going there, etc., I prefer until we get agree on the terms of reference and the itinerary that we're still discussing.
James Bays from Al Jazeera. Going back to Gaza, you had the meeting on Friday. Ever since Friday, you've been trying to work on a statement. The US blocked the draft statement. Is that statement now dead, or is there still work going on it? And what is your reaction in your national capacity, if you want, to the fact that there is an incident of this seriousness and the Security Council can't even agree wording on it?
Indeed, there was a meeting where we were all able to express our great concern about what's happening in Gaza. In the case of Peru, not only recent events were of concern, but the deep-seated causes of this conflict, and specifically the grave humanitarian situation being experienced in Gaza. And there was an attempt, there was a proposal for a press statement, which, as you said, one country objected, and we were unable to adopt it. That draft declaration did enjoy our support. So speaking nationally, I can say we accepted it, but there was some opposition to it, unfortunately. So we can't really say what the next step will be, but we are very attentive to events as they unfold on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. George Baumgarten, correspondent for Jewish newspapers in North America and other publications in Africa and as far afield as Kazakhstan. Do I understand correctly, first, on the 18th, in addition to the afternoon meeting on South Sudan, there was to be a briefing with Monsieur Lacroix on the CA and others on the CAR, and there's also the presence of Guinea-Bissau in the footnotes. Any thought of this has been on the footnotes for several successive months. Any thought of any action on that? And if I understand correctly, the open debate on the Middle East is to be on the 26th, as it says here. Originally, I think you may have just mentioned it was the 27th. I assume it's as it is here, the 26th with Mr. Mladenov. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Efectivamente.
Yes, it's correct. On the 26th, there was a typo here. On the 26th, the quarterly open debate on the Middle East and Palestine. Your question on the 18th, indeed, in the morning we have a briefing. It's an interactive dialogue. That's why it's not in the program. It's an informal interactive dialogue, but it's for Mr. Lacroix and Ismail Cherki, the African Union Commissioner for Peace and Security, to report to us on their on their visit to Central African Republic, to Darfur, and another place. That will be in the morning of the 18th. And on the 19th, we have, as indicated here, briefing on Unmiss and Consultations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Olga Denisova with RIA Novosti, Russian news agency. According to the program, you have 3 traditional meetings on Syria, the chemical weapons, political and humanitarian in one day. Do you think it's necessary this month to return to discuss, for the Council to return to discuss the 2401 resolution on Syria, on the ceasefire and the humanitarian aid, according to the, given the humanitarian situation is still worsening?
Muchas gracias. Efectivamente.
Thank you. Indeed. I did say that while we do have the meeting on political humanitarian issues in Syria, it's quite probable that some countries will feel that it's a long time to wait till the end of the month, and we might end up having a request then for it to be discussed under any other business or to have a briefing on it. It hasn't been discarded. It's quite possible. It's quite possible, especially given the way the situation is continuing to unravel. The humanitarian situation is very difficult, so we wouldn't discard that option, yes.
Mario Villar con la agencia F. Embajador.
From the EF agency. My question on Western Sahara, after the letter that you received and you met with the special envoy, based on what you've heard, are there concerns that tensions could resume in the area, and could there be significant change regarding the renovation of the mandate of MINURSO? Yes, indeed, we had a meeting with the special envoy, Mr. Kubler, and there was a press statement in support of the council, its work. We witnessed the efforts that are being made in consultation with all the parties. There have been various meetings. So we have, we've had a very positive attitude. Unfortunately, there was this communication that you mentioned, and although we haven't made a decision on this, personally speaking, we will expect the parties to maintain calm, and so that this stage where the special envoy is starting this work, Mr. Kubler, so that there's every chance to give him every chance to reach a political solution that we all hope for.
Thank you very much. From OND Noticias from Latin America. Sir, coming back to the issue of Venezuela, I'd like to ask you about the spillover effect. Does that put at risk peacekeeping and security in the region, given that Venezuela has some 1,000 passports have been given to citizens from the Middle East? And then in your national capacity, do you think that the United Nations should be doing more for Venezuela or do something for Venezuela?
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I reiterate that for Peru, the situation in Venezuela is very serious. It's very alarming in all senses, politically and humanitarian. Peru, as part of the Lima Group, has indicated this and has said that we are seriously concerned about the humanitarian situation and the need for international assistance. And in some communiques, there has been a reference to the possibility of having support from the United Nations agencies and programs to help them grapple with this very difficult situation, which is very sensitive and affecting so many Venezuelans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more requests for questions. So thank you very much for coming, and good afternoon.